Scott Galloway opens by highlighting a pervasive issue largely ignored in today's political and social discourse: the crisis facing young men. He critiques the cultural tendency to preface conversations about male struggles by emphasizing women's historical and ongoing challenges. While acknowledging the importance of recognizing women's struggles, Scott argues that framing male issues solely in relation to women's progress dilutes the urgency and clarity needed to address men's unique problems. Parentheses, particularly mental health challenges and suicide rates, require distinct attention coupled with societal support. Scott further explains that men are not inherently the problem, but rather victims of shifting socioeconomic conditions, technological change, and cultural expectations that obscure masculinity. Young men today face a paradox where societal narratives dismiss masculinity as toxic, yet the very qualities tied to male identity, provider, protector, and procreator, remain essential in both historical and contemporary contexts. This crisis cannot be solved by asking men to simply act more like women. Instead, society must craft a healthy vision of masculinity. Scott highlights a stark disparity in educational attainment, noting that women now outperform men in many academic areas. In college admissions, a 60-40 ratio favoring women persists despite policies like Title IX intended to level the playing field. Men are dropping out at significantly higher rates, with some studies showing 7 times more male dropouts during the pandemic. He explains that the educational system has been unintentionally biased toward the attributes commonly found in women, such as executive functions and patience crucial for classroom settings. Boys, biologically and developmentally different, often struggle to adapt to prolonged sedentary, instruction-based learning. The lack of male educational support contributes to a growing cohort of young men who neither excel in school nor find clarity in their roles. But Galloway asserts this challenge isn't purely about gender bias. It reflects a failure to create learning environments that accommodate diverse developmental needs. Society often conflates masculinity with toxicity or aggression. Scott challenges this view, drawing attention to an aspirational masculinity grounded in positive qualities such as responsibility, protection, and generosity. He condemns the cultural reflex that dismisses or fears masculine traits, particularly when associated with emotions like ambition or competition, labeling them as violence or recklessness. Galloway advocates recognizing that masculinity is multifaceted and nuanced. Healthy masculinity enables men to aspire to goals without feeling inadequate and cultivate emotional openness without appearing weak. In his view, masculinity should be a code of conduct that encourages men to add value to the world, balancing strength with compassion. One of the conversation's core themes is the critical impact of male role models in boys' lives. Scott stresses that losing positive male influences, whether through abandonment, death, or absence, significantly increases young men's risks for incarceration, mental health challenges, and educational failure. Unlike girls, boys generally require male figures who provide a unique combination of physical presence, emotional guidance, and example. Yet, societal taboos surrounding men mentoring boys have deterred many men from filling these roles, compounded by fears related to unfounded suspicions of misconduct. Galloway calls for more men to step forward, even in informal capacities like community mentoring programs, emphasizing that simply showing interest and spending time with boys can be life-changing. Scott points out that romantic relationships uniquely benefit men's health and well-being, often more so than women's. Data shows men in partnerships tend to live significantly longer and have better mental health than single men. Therefore, one aspect of the male crisis is a shortage of stable mating opportunities for economically viable young men. He explains the socioeconomic and cultural factors exacerbating this problem, such as women's rising economic status and selectivity that narrows the dating pool for many men. This imbalance fuels loneliness and contributes to issues like substance abuse and online radicalization among men without romantic attachments. Recognizing and addressing the dynamics of male romantic and social isolation is crucial for reversing these trends. The digital world, shaped by social media algorithms and addictive platforms, has amplified isolation, anger, and disconnection among young men. Scott laments the rapid disappearance of third spaces, like workplaces, pubs, and community centers, where men traditionally demonstrated competence and formed friendships. Remote work, the decline of physical social venues, and the hyper-digitalization of social connection have left many young men without spaces to cultivate social skills or gain confidence. Coupled with pervasive online content that vilifies men or encourages withdrawal, this environment fosters a new kind of isolated, often asexual male, disconnected from the qualities and communities that historically nurtured masculinity. Galloway warns that such isolation disproportionately benefits the most socially aggressive or pathological individuals who remain functional in this landscape. Scott stresses strongly that in a capitalist society, men's economic viability remains a primary criterion by which they are judged, especially in romantic and social contexts. Although there is pushback against this idea in progressive circles, data consistently show that a man's ability to provide financially correlates with relationship stability and social standing. He warns men that dismissing economic responsibility is unrealistic and harmful. Men must have plans, whether in education, trade, or vocation, that build provider capability. However, being a provider also means adapting roles. A man may support a partner who earns more, while still demonstrating responsibility and contributing value in non-traditional ways. Scott advocates moving beyond a reactive view of masculinity defined by what it is not, and instead offers a positive, aspirational code that men can embrace. This code comprises three pillars: provider, protector, and procreator. Provider status emphasizes responsibility and economic capability. Protector focuses on physical strength, safeguarding loved ones, and cultivating presence. Procreator acknowledges healthy sexual desire as a motivating force for self-improvement and relational connection. Galloway's overarching message is that embracing an integrated form of masculinity equipped with kindness, responsibility, and ambition can empower men to become surplus value contributors to society, individuals who add more than they take. The discussion explores the intricate emotional balancing act many men struggle with. Men often yearn to aspire toward greatness, but simultaneously desire acceptance and love as they are. This tension between striving and self-acceptance frequently causes internal conflict and confusion. Scott, together with the host, reflects on how effective male role models or father figures are, often the only ones who can communicate this complex message of love and high expectations with the necessary blend of support, challenge, and toughness. Vulnerability, often misrepresented as weakness, is reframed as speaking your truth when it's scary, giving it a heroic dimension that men can aspire to. Modern dating, shaped largely by apps and online culture, presents unique challenges to men. Many young men face approach anxiety, heightened by the conflicting signals women send, publicly desiring sensitive men while privately preferring masculine traits. Online platforms simultaneously enable men to exhibit superficial traits such as income and height as proxies for fitness, but diminish opportunities for demonstrating humor, kindness, or character. Scott discusses the importance of men learning the art of expressing romantic interest while ensuring safety and respect. He urges men to embrace persistence, understanding that initial rejections are a normal part of the process, while also honing social skills, emotional intelligence, and genuine kindness that ultimately sustain long-term relationships. Scott makes a strong case for political and social programs aimed at supporting all young people, rather than narrowly focusing on identity groups at the expense of others. He points out the historical success of policies like the GI Bill and the middle-class prosperity that allowed millions of men to become economically viable and form stable families. One recommendation is mandatory national service for young adults, irrespective of gender, modeled on Israel's example. Such service could instill competence, build social capital, reduce polarization, and foster empathy across socioeconomic divides. Economic policies should also be adjusted to favor earnings over capital gains, addressing wealth transfer issues that disadvantage younger generations. Ultimately, Scott defines manhood not by age or traditional rights, but by adding surplus value to society. This means producing more economic, social, and emotional value than one consumes, whether through paid work, nurturing relationships, or community involvement. Men who remain codeless, lacking guiding principles or positive influence, tend to flounder. This aspirational framework offers men a path from negative to positive value extraction, helping motivate purpose-driven lives. Scott's optimistic vision is that through intentional mentorship, better policies, and embracing a balanced, kind, and accountable masculinity, society can rebuild a culture where men thrive, not in opposition to women, but as part of a collective social fabric.